Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Butternomics. I'm your host, Brandon Butler, founder and CEO of Butter ATL, and we are here with a special guest today, a very special guest, because she's out here doing big work in these streets, not just in Atlanta, but all over the place. The one, the only, Miss Jasmine Crowe. How are you doing, Jasmine?
Doing good, Brandon. How are you doing?
If I was any better, I'd be you.
Oh, wow.
I'd be Goodr. I mean, see, look at that, a perfect transition. So Jasmine is the CEO and founder of Goodr. They do amazing stuff around Atlanta and really all over the country around food insecurity. For those that don't know Jasmine, just tell them a little bit about what Goodr is.
That's so perfect. Goodr is a sustainable waste management and food logistics company. We believe that hunger is not an issue of scarcity. There's more than enough food out here. It's really a matter of logistics. It's how do we get this excess food to people in need? And then how do we get food access to more people? So we have started in Atlanta in 2017, which is crazy to think about, with just this goal that we could feed 1 million people. That was my original goal. Now we're marching towards 40 million. I feel really good about the meals that we've provided, the pounds of food we've kept out of landfill. And at the end of the day, we're trying to create a better world and a better environment for you and I, but also our kids. Can we breathe better? Can we make sure that all of our neighbors are eating?
Now, I go to a lot of events, Jasmine. I'm a micro influencer, is what they call it.
Oh, you're a big time influence.
So I go to a lot of events. I see a lot of stuff, and I'm sure you've gone to stuff too. Like, how did you get this idea? Because you see this food that's not being used. Like, how did the idea of helping people with this excess food from businesses and restaurants and events come about?
You're right. We all see it. So I was feeding people through an initiative called Sunday Soul ATL. I started it in 2013 when I first moved here. My sister was going to Spelman College. My dad knew nobody in Atlanta. Was just like, oh, you got to go there so she can have someone. And it felt right to me. So I moved to Atlanta from Phoenix, Arizona, believe it or not. And I saw downtown, Peachtree and Pine at the time, just hundreds of people experiencing homelessness, and something just moved me to want to start cooking for them. So I created this pop-up restaurant series. A video goes viral on Facebook. I wake up one morning, millions of views, all these comments. And as I was reading through them, one of the things people kept asking me is who donated the food. And the truth was nobody. I was couponing, price matching, cooking all this food myself, going to 3 and 4 different places. And so I started researching food donations, truly believing I was going to go to Google and get a list of all the businesses that donate food that would allow me to feed more people on the streets. And instead, I found out about food waste. And I started to think, just like you, all the times I had seen food waste. I'd gone to the gala, and there's 3 and 4 empty tables, and they all already have a salad plate on them, right? And I started thinking there's just a lot of food going to waste that could be going to people in need. And so it was doing the work and then seeing in the back end so much going to waste that could be helping me do better.
Now, how does that work? Because I don't want people to get this, misunderstood when you say food waste, right? Like these are real meals,
Excess food.
excess food. But how does that work? Are you, like for example, the gala, the event is over. What happens to that extra food that hasn't been used?
So there's going to be one or two things. Right now, it's traditionally probably going into waste. And that means it goes into landfill, it produces harmful methane gas, it's making all of our air worse, and it's polluting us. Or it could be composted, which Gooder handles as well. So we can help them compost it, turn it into soil, make the food that we grow better and fresher, and keep it out of landfill. Or if it's never hit someone's plate, like it's never been at a seat, which is what happens a lot at these events. It's in the hot box, it's backstage, it's still in a pan. Then that food could be transferred. Goodr provides all the packaging materials, the labels, the easy access to technology to request a pickup. We get the food picked up, and then we'll take it and donate it to a local nonprofit in the city where that event is taking place.
Okay. So y'all have done that. You've started off wanting to feed 1 million people. Now you're at 40 million plus. Like when you were doing this, did you think there was a business opportunity behind it, or we just, wanting to do the right thing?
When I was feeding people on the streets, it wasn't about business. It was really just about service and, wanting to create a legacy of doing something good and caring about people. And I just believed people deserve to be fed with more dignity. It wasn't about just giving someone a sandwich and saying you're homeless, be grateful. But when I was thinking about this idea, it was a business case. And the reason why is because I started looking into the waste industry, which is, $1 trillion industry if you think about it from a global perspective. And the reality was people were already paying to throw the food away. So businesses are already paying. If they're not going to pay Gooder to come and divert it from landfill and get it to people in need, they're going to pay Republic Services, Waste Management, the city to throw it away. And then it creates that vicious cycle that I talked about. So when I saw that there was already money being spent, I saw that there was an opportunity to create a business that had a better outcome.
Yeah. So what was it like in the beginning then? Like you start doing this, you're calling people up. They think you were crazy. Were they like, you know what, this is a great idea? Like what happens? Hey, I want your extra food. Don't throw it away. I want to come get it. Like what was
People thought I was crazy. My parents thought I was crazy. I mean, my dad hates when I tell this story, but he used to send me jobs and, you got to find something else. Like they just really didn't think it could be. And so, and companies thought I was crazy too. But what I did is I went everywhere in Atlanta. I remember having a meeting at like Mary Mac's one day, getting some soul food. And then I was at Maggiano's like 3 or 4 days later, asked them, what do you guys do with your excess food? Everyone's telling me the same thing. Oh, we throw it away. We throw it away. It all gets thrown in the trash can. So I'm thinking there's a lot of food here. So for certain people thought I was crazy. But what I realized is I had to solve for a lot of their fears. And so people were like, oh, we never donated because if someone gets sick, we could get sued. And I thought, well, okay, well, what if you don't donate it then, right? You're giving it to Goodr and we'll provide all the packaging materials, all the labels, just like a waste company gives you a trash bin. And we're going to provide the logistics. We're going to come and pick it up and we're going to deliver it for you. And then we're going to give you back all the data around what's getting donated, who is it going to, how many meals are you providing, how many pounds are you keeping out of landfill, what that means for your carbon footprint. And we'll have insurance and we'll make sure that it gets there safely and fast. And so you start building on like, what is that solution? What are they afraid of? What can I solve for? And at the end of the day, the outcome was always great. And I started Goodr fully believing that if I could even just get to that 1 million. I remember I was back in my being Mary Jane days. I had like little Post-its all over my window. And I remember having a Post-it that said like, Goodr will feed 2 million people and be worth $2 million. Just that was my vision back in 2017. If I could just do that and to have surpassed that many times over is really an extraordinary win, right? I'm really proud of that because if Goodr doesn't survive another day, I can always think of like I hit the goal many times over to help a lot of people.
how different is it from your original kind of vision of what you thought Goodr was going to be back when you wanted 2 million and a million people and $2 million like now? Like how different is the business now versus what you kind of originally thought?
It's way different. I mean, at first we were only doing the food waste business, like the taking the excess food. When the pandemic hit, all the businesses that we were getting food from essentially closed their doors. We were super busy the first 2 weeks of the pandemic. In Atlanta alone, Coca-Cola, NCR, the NASCAR Stadium, State Farm Arena, getting all of this excess food, getting it out to nonprofits, working with the school districts. And then we really kind of had a pivot. We started working on hunger. So many of our neighbors were struggling with food access that what started as a tweet with me saying, listen, if you guys want to send and donate money, I'm starting this GoFundMe to deliver boxes of food to families. And I raised, I would say in the first couple of weeks from people like Sarah Blakely and Spanx and P and Coach K at Quality Control Music, each of them putting up $100,000, just those two alone, just to go out, for me to go out and feed people. It created this opportunity for me to make sure I was getting people quality items to their door. Because the thing about it is, Brandon, so many people don't know what it's like on the other side. And anyone who's in business should really know that. Like, so on the other side of my business, there's, of course, the companies that I'm helping, but the people that are getting served, for a long time, that cycle that they live in, if you're food insecure, is crazy. You're going to this church on Monday, you go here to try and get food. You're really trying to marry meals together just to make it. And I wanted to, every time someone came into contact with Goodr, they had good food that was going to give them a couple days worth of food. Like, can they get through for a week? And so it changed into now food waste and hunger. And all with the same goal. The mission never changed. The mission was always to feed more and waste less. On the feed more, I just took it on a bigger angle on hunger, and on the waste less, still working on the food waste.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember growing up, my dad used to volunteer at a food kitchen when he was in back at our church, and he would take me with him, especially during the summer. So I would literally be at our church down here in Atlanta, helping stock the shelves and helping make food boxes. That was like a very big part of my childhood, and I kind of saw it firsthand. Did you ever do anything like that, or was this kind of your first experience when you kind of got into the Goodr?
Absolutely not. All the time. I mean, I was doing it when I was on the street, feeding people on the streets, and then I was working in food banks. And that's what really helped me shape how I wanted the hunger solution to be different is I saw what people were receiving that were in line for food banks. And your dad was just like me. I'm just volunteering at the food kitchen, but I'm giving away what's coming in from donations. And I'm not thinking that, oh wow, we gave all these people jelly, no peanut butter, no bread. We gave everybody spaghetti noodles. They have no pasta sauce, no salad, no breadsticks, no nothing. Like, where are they going to make meals from? So that experience in volunteering at a lot of different food banks and pantries 100% helped shape me.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And it made me want to do it differently, though.
yeah, I mean, I saw the same thing. I mean, now that you even say that, I even can think back to that and remember, like, how are people gonna make meals out of this? Because you give them, yeah, it's like you give them,
20 can.
yeah, some 20 canned goods. Because I think if I remember correctly, we would do it based on the size of the family. So if they had two adults and a kid, it was like, okay, they get this much stuff, or if they had something else, and a lot of the food too was donated from food banks. You couldn't always speak to the quality of some of the stuff. It'd be sitting back there for however long.
And then what else too, Brandon? What do you think about if people are allergic to this stuff? So see, that's the thing. Like, so you never even so with Goodr, it's like, hey, are you vegan? Or do you want almond milk? Do you want dairy milk? Like, just people getting asked those simple questions has been life changing for them. I mean, I've seen people literally be like, "Do you have almond milk? I love almond milk. My son is lactose." Like, but when you're in need, no one ever asks you that. It's like, here, this is what we have.
We're gonna take it. I remember too. You also mentioned that. It also reminds me of when you did the initiative last year with the Decatur City Schools, and I know Butter kind of got behind that. Oh, that was wow. That was this year. Oh my goodness, time is flying.
Time is flying, yeah.
And I remember, you shared it, and Butter kind of helped amplify it. And I think what was it? You raised like over like $80,000 in like 24, 48 hours, something like that. Like, what was it? What was that experience like that made you want to get involved in that?
Well, it was crazy because what I read in that article, and that's a crazy story too, because I raised the money, I gave it back to everybody because Arby's
These came in.
came in and paid it. But what they were going to do is the kids who had a past due balance, they were going to get a cheese sandwich and a milk. And so that was shameful to me because you're shaming these kids because everyone else, if everyone else has a chicken sandwich and you got a cheese sandwich, now it's like, oh, you don't have money, your family's poor, you can't afford your food. And I thought that was insane. So it really was like, hey, can we raise some money to make sure that we pay this balance so that these kids don't have to suffer this stigma? And so that was really how that started.
Okay. So you've built you've built a Goodr. It started going off. As you actually started turning this into a business, like, how did you start to kind of like build out and scale that team? One of the things that we've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs on the podcast, and a lot of them, they kind of talk about building that team is one of the hardest things. But you're also building a team that also has a social angle to it. They want to make sure they're aligned with you all. Like, what's kind of your process for finding people that not only want a job but also believe in the mission of Goodr, and they can support you all like that?
I will be honest in saying, like, building the team, I think, has been my challenge, my biggest challenge. I think, because of us having to pivot and what happened in the pandemic, when Goodr first made our first millions, we were super small. Like, we were like a team of 4 or 5 full-time people. So it was like really small. So then as I've scaled over the year up to 35 full-time employees and let's say up to 80 to 100, people part-time that work in our fulfillment centers, it's been tough. Like, you have to hire sometimes so fast, but I think the biggest thing is you have to fire fast. And I think for me, I always ask people, like, why did this matter to them? That's always been part of the interview process. Even in our employee engagement surveys, 100% of the people, they can say, like, I don't get paid enough, I don't everything else, but 100% will say they believe in the mission of what we're trying to do at Goodr. I think the biggest thing is, like, how do you keep them motivated on that mission when it's hard? When you're a startup and you're trying to make it happen, and some people, how do you as a business owner decipher who's there for a paycheck and who's there for the purpose? Because that matters. Like, if you ever have to make critical decisions and you can only keep a couple of people, it's like you want to keep the best people. How do you measure people that are doing well? I mean, I recently had a split with someone at the company who had been there for a long time, and it came to me that it was just like, this isn't working. Like, we're not. The same people that you get to 10 million with won't always necessarily be the people you get to 100 million with. And that's a tough pill to swallow, but you got to be able to continue to look at, is this working for us, for them and for you? And do you have the right people in place? Because there's always we get so many emails at Goodr, like our careers inbox. I mean, just people are like, "Hey, I go to your website every week. You guys aren't hiring," and I'm like, we're trying to raise capital. We're gonna fundraise. We're gonna hire more people. So a lot of people will want to work with you. A lot of people will want to come and work at Butter, right? A lot of people will want to come and work at any big company, iHeart, you name it. But you have to make sure that it's working, not just they're coming to work, but it's also working. And so for me, that's been a challenge, but I've had some amazing people work with us and help build the company, and I'm really grateful to everybody that's ever put an effort into Goodr in any way.
No, I feel that. I mean, yeah, to your point, but Butter, we've had a lot of people because it's very well known around the city. People reach out to me all the time wanting to kind of work with us. And, there have been times when I've brought people in and it didn't work out. And I don't think people always realize, especially when you're trying to run a business as an entrepreneur, right? Like hiring the wrong person can cost you thousands of dollars, cost you time.
Wow, it's a big waste of money, I think. And if you hire like 10 wrong people,
You got to amplify.
now it's cost you millions of dollars. I mean, like you really think about that sometimes, of just like not only from the training, but then kind of the aftermath. Like now you got to go whatever customers they were working with, you got to transfer people over. You got to just, it's really tough. So I think a lot of people don't realize that. And most founders that I've talked to, beyond funding, like money, right? That's the number two, is like the team, that there's some kind of struggle or culture. I mean, you see it all the time. You've seen like these big exposés that will come out, and you're like, thinking that company, like think of Google, for example. I mean, there's so many that I could just think of where something came out, like maybe they were, discriminating against women, or there were just things that were happening. You just, as you grow, I think the founders of Google never anticipated for that to happen, right? But more money, more problems, and I would add to that more people. You know,
It adds up quickly.
yeah, because then they have their own internal problems. That's a whole other conflict thing. So it's the bigger the company, I would say, the more complex people get.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can just think of like so many examples. Some of the things that I've taught myself over the years is I kind of have, two rules that I go by. One is you can't work for me until you work for me. And so, I try to give people an opportunity as much as possible to do a test project or something simple, something low risk, because people come in all day long and tell you how good they are, how dedicated they are, the quality of their work. But the only way you can see how good somebody is to actually see the quality of their work. So, don't you can't work for me until you work for me is kind of a big thing that I do. The other thing that I do is I kind of think about people in like three buckets. I kind of call it, you're either a rock star, a superstar, or individual contributor. And what I mean by that is not rock star in the sense of like you're amazing, but when I say rock star, it's like I know that if you join my company, you have a desire. Like every year, you're going to want to get promoted. Every year, you're going to want to move up. You're going to want to, a bump. Like it's important not just to have the role, but the other things that come with that are very important to you. For the superstars, I'm sorry, that's the rock star. The rock stars are the solid people. The rock stars are people that you can depend on. You know they're going to show up every day. They're going to do the work. They're not necessarily.
I feel like I have a couple rock stars.
Yeah, they're solid. That's why I call them, right. They're solid. You can depend on them, and they're not necessarily there to get your job or to like run a major department, because for a long time in corporate America, you couldn't get promoted unless you actually managed people, and so I've tried to separate those two things out and say there's ways to grow without managing. So that's the rock star. The superstar is the one I talked about the first time, where again, I know if you're a superstar, you're coming in like you want my job. You know what I mean? You're coming in, you want to move up, you want a bonus every year, you want to bump, you want to see that progression. And then you have people that are individual contributors. They're people that they just do what they do. They might not want to manage a team, but they're competent. They show up every day and they do that. Do you kind of have any tricks to hire in that you've learned over the years?
I definitely, if you're building a social enterprise, you want to have someone that cares about what you're doing. I think that's so important. The other thing that I've really tried to focus on at Goodr, and I don't know if I've ever got it right, but I always really try to focus on culture. Like, like how can I wanted to reward people, because what I realized is that we were all going to be givers. Like we're in this business, we're like giving, we're trying to help people eat, we're trying to make our environment better. And a lot of times givers never receive. And so what I tried to do is like make things like I give all of my team members, our full-time employees each get $250 a month, as a fringe benefit that they could use for like yoga classes, for groceries, for gas, like just thinking things of that. We do the first Friday of every month. We call it Feel Good or Friday, and it's just a day where the whole company is off for you to kind of get right mentally and just have like a mental health day. We have retreats where we go on retreats. And so like I tried to create like this culture of appreciation. And sometimes people will still say like, well, I don't want the June benefit. They should just give it to me in a salary. And I will say, well, if I give it to you on your salary, you're going to get it taxed. You're not going to see the $3,000 a year. Then it's maybe 1,800. And now, this is something that's coming back to you. So I think I've had that effort. The trick is to find people that care about the mission, make sure that they're a culture fit. And that's the biggest. And as sucky as it sounds to say, if they're not, you gotta fire fast. You should almost hire slow and fire fast. For some of the best companies in the world, I think I went to college in North Carolina. There's a company called SAS. It's like a math, I don't know what they do, like some kind of tech company, but no one leaves. Like it's like one of those companies, like you get in there,
Golden handcuffs.
you're staying. Oh yeah, like you're gonna stay. And it's so hard to get in there. It takes years to get in there. I have a friend that right now who's been trying to get at the CDC here in Atlanta. She was like, "Oh, if I get at the CDC, I'm gonna retire from the CDC because it's kind of one of those. She loves research. This is where she wants to be, and that's her dream job. You want people to want to stay, and just you want to be that company, and you want to hire people that way. So slow to hire, fast to fire. If it's not working out.
Yeah, and I mean, another point you just brought up again is they say culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so you can have the best strategy in the world, but if you don't have a culture inside of your company that like supports that, it's not going to work. And so I just want to kind of make that as a call out to other people that are listening, because I think a lot of people think when it comes to running a business, you're just focused on, the money part of it. But the reality is you got to care about all that stuff. There's so many other things that need to happen in order for your business to be successful. Like even me right now, I've had to hire HR people. Like you're just at that point now where you got to have certain things to help you scale the infrastructure so that you can actually deliver that stuff. And I don't think, people think about that. And, it pops up all the time. Now, you all have been doing a lot of amazing work. You work with a lot of amazing brands. I saw you did a partnership with, Mercedes-Benz. You've done stuff with Lowe's, Chick-fil-A. Like, how do you all, kind of approach these partnerships? And what's really important when you look for organizations like that to partner with?
Well, I think we approach them with join us to do something better. Join us to do gooder. Join us to make sure we're feeding our neighbors. And people want to do the right thing. I think most businesses want to do the right thing. It's about how easy can you make it for them to do it. So a lot of it is just like, this is who we are. These are your goals. I remember the first couple of customers that I got for Goodr, I literally would go on their website, look at their sustainability report, look at their sustainability goals, and then say, hey, like, listen, you're wasting a lot of food. Here, let me introduce you to Goodr, and this is what we do. And you have on your website, it says you want to cut food waste in half by 2025. Like, what you doing? How have you got started? So a lot of times it was like finding kind of the what's in it for them. So a lot of in business school, they'll call it the WIFM. What's in it for me? That's how you're selling, right? So what was in it for a lot of these companies is I was helping them reach these goals that they had set for themselves. Like you're the one who wants to be carbon negative. You're investing $1 million a day in being carbon neutral. I mean, these commercials, when I started seeing companies like Google and Amazon on the Super Bowl talking about climate, I was like, okay, I got to make the correlation of like what food waste is doing to our environment and how many of our neighbors are going hungry. And these are all sustainable development goals that we have for 2030. We're only 11% of the way there. That's crazy to think. If you think of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals of 2030, which zero hunger, zero waste, all of these are part of them. Women's equality, whatever you want to think of, renewable energy, all of these are goals. We're only 11% there. And we got 5 years to get there.
Y'all need to do some work.
So a lot of people in the world, we need to do work. The entire world, like food waste, if it was a country, it'd be the third largest country in the world. So this is a big problem. I still have companies that'll say, "Oh, we don't have a food waste problem." I'm like, "Yes, you do. You have a stadium that feeds 100,000 people on a Sunday. There's food that's going to waste." Like just kind of letting people know that this problem exists.
Trust me, I was just at the stadium and there was plenty of food left.
Oh, tons. Mercedes says they do a lot of composting, so we'll see. I think they do a good job.
Do a good job. I've been out there. I've seen some of the stuff they do with the, the farm they have outside where they kind of grow some of their stuff in the garden. So, people are working on it.
They're working on it, but it's still a lot. Like, I mean, no matter what, there's always waste. And that's the thing too. When I was first building Goodr, people would think I would eventually put myself out of business, right? Because if I'm helping businesses reduce their waste, if I'm helping them divert it, helping them track it, at some point they don't waste anything else. But the reality is there's always waste. You can never, if you have a party tonight, there's no guarantee that all 100 people show up. There's just never a guarantee. The airport, you don't know if flights are running late. Everybody's going past your gate or your concession because they got to make it to their gate. So now all the food that you've made goes to waste. Like there's just no guarantees.
Right. And everybody's doing stuff. Yeah, it's tons of people out here too. So there's always opportunities. When I also see the work that y'all are doing with, doing these unique things like you put in grocery stores in schools, and you all have like a mobile grocery store. Just when it comes to like innovation in general, like how do you kind of approach those kind of ideas? What inspires you when you see those kind of things to say, you know what, this school needs a grocery store, or like a mobile food grocery store would be helpful?
You know what made me want to do the first in-store grocery store? I have been thinking about building a physical grocery store really all of 2020. We were doing a lot of pop-up grocery stores. This is heavy during the pandemic, so we're renting tables and tents and kind of creating like these, in essence, pop-up grocery markets that you could just come to and drive through. And I realized that if my saying at the company was that hunger wasn't an issue of scarcity, it was a matter of logistics. The reason why more and more people are going hungry, it was a logistics issue. So I started thinking, where can I get people food where they're coming every day? And so that's where the first school concept came to me. I realized kids are going to get on the school bus, so they're getting to school every single day. If I could then get food back home to these families of these children on the school bus, then I have now eliminated this logistics problem that families have when they have food access. Plus, they also can't afford food. And, kids are measured on how they're performing in school. And if they don't eat, then what happens? Like, you're not yourself when you're hungry, right? Think about that Snickers commercial. You're a marketing guy. You probably remember that one. I think it was Danny DeVito and Betty White would turn into each other. How many students have never been themselves? And so I had the idea. I was pitching it. I would think at the time I was pitching it to the Atlanta Hawks, and it just didn't work. And I pitched it to Gunna. He wanted to do something for back to school. And I was like, I have this idea. I've always wanted to build a grocery store. And he was like, bet. And, his management team was like, oh, we want to do a drip closet. We're going to get clothes and shoes to go in the store as well. And so it became this concept, which since then has been like over 20 more stores have opened because of one person saying, I believe that, I'll give you the concept. I'll take your idea. Like sometimes it's just, you'll have the idea and you'll have the strategy, but do you have the money to execute it? And from the time he told me yes, and I came up with the budget, which I under budgeted because it was my first time doing it. I got it right later. We had that store open within 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, literally like calling the mayor, getting on this phone with the principals, talking to the school districts. Like it was within 2 weeks plus building out this store. So, and then you just kind of, you replicate the model, you flip it and you do it in different schools. I look for Title I schools where most students, if not all students, are getting free breakfast and lunch. I look for schools that are in food deserts. We just opened one yesterday, as a matter of fact, in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Extreme food desert. It's a military town, lots of people food insecure, and that's probably one of our biggest stores that we'll have.
Do y'all have one in Stone Mountain? Because my parents live out there, and the only thing they got out there is chicken wings and liquor stores.
I will tell you, by the time this comes out, we should. I heard yesterday that we were on the board kind of approval for DeKalb County. And so if everything goes well, we will be in a couple of DeKalb County schools. We're looking right now, I think, at Redan,
Redan alumni.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, McNair, Cedar Grove. There's a couple of them. So we're hoping to be in DeKalb County. So we're in Fulton County schools. We're in Cobb. We're in Clayton, and we're in APS. So we need to be in DeKalb like yesterday.
Now, when it comes to innovation too, like the ideas like the mobile, grocery store and the, in stores are cool, but like, what else do you think needs to exist as much as you can kind of share? Are there other ideas you have to like innovate and put and make food more accessible?
I have so many. I want to do food vending machines. I want to do, in my next lifetime, I want to have a pay what you can restaurant where someone can just come in and get access to food if they need it and they can't afford it. Brandon, you maybe are paying for someone else's meal and you don't even know it. I am really working on food as medicine now, building what I'm calling Goodr. They're going to be called food care kits. So I want to be able, we're going to build some AI into our new app that lets people, if you have high blood pressure and you come to a Goodr event, I'm going to give you all the food to help you with your pre-existing condition so that you don't go to the hospital, so that your blood pressure gets lowered. How can I help you help yourself? How can I help more people get out of hunger and all that comes with it? Because food really is a huge social determinant of health. I would argue it's the number one. And why I think about why a lot of our kids have high blood pressure as teenagers is because of the sodium, because they are living off of cereal, ramen noodles, and Chinese food, because that's all that's in their community. So there's so many more places. I mean, we have our first grocery store that we opened with this city, which is at the Hamilton E. Holmes MARTA station. It's in a shipping container. That is an extraordinary resource to put it at a MARTA station. Again, the logistics of it. People are coming off the bus. They could get over there. I mean, to see seniors, Brandon, in your city, this is Atlanta, and I think Atlanta is the mecca. I think it's, I use BAM and them, it influences everything, right? Like if we could do it in Atlanta, we could do it everywhere. To see seniors getting off of MARTA with their little carts, coming to shop at our grocery store, it really warms my heart. And I'm telling you, they are there. Like we open at 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning. We have to be ready to go because we'll have 20, 30 people there to shop with us every Tuesday. We're open Tuesday through Saturday. The need is so crazy. We'd be here all day telling just the audience how many people are struggling. And it's sad. And I take a lot of solitude and reflecting, knowing like I've done a lot, but there's still so much more to do. So that's where that innovation that you talk about, it has to come. How can I feed more people? The USDA's most recent report on hunger just came out last week, on September 4th. So when was that? Last week? I think a week ago, today almost. Hunger has gone up. 13.8 million children are hungry. 47 million people are hungry. This is an increase from last year. Like it's continually going up. It's disproportionately affecting people that are Black, women that are single parents. It's insane. Almost 40% of women or households raised by a single woman are food insecure. That was one of the most recent stats that came out. So and these are our kids, and they're struggling. So it's a lot of work to do. And I do believe I'm someone who could really solve it if given the opportunity. And I talk about that because you'll probably say like, well, you have the opportunity. It's billions and billions of dollars get spent to solve hunger. So for me to really do it how I want to do it, and we should have a grocery store in every city, right? Why are we not in Stone Mountain yet? Why are we not everywhere? We should be in Reading High School. We should be in every school because this is a problem that's everywhere. For me to be able to do that, I have to have the resources. So they're not easy to come by. The customers to partner with you, the grants, the funding, you got to work on all of it.
Well, that's an amazing transition because I was going to ask, in order to accomplish your goal, a big part of that is capital and raising money. And, as a Black woman founder, we know there are challenges with that kind of stuff. What's been your experience with raising capital, even with, a really important business like what you're doing?
It's been really hard. I think the reality is when you're raising from investors, they probably don't care about hunger, right? Me telling them like, hey, listen, 40% of single women are struggling. They can't feed themselves. They can't feed their kids. Like they're like, okay, how are you going to make me money? So I did have to come in and really alter early on what I was talking about. So it was really like, here's the business case. Hey, all these businesses are wasting food and, they're paying to throw it away. I'm going to come in. I'm going to help them get this food, not in landfill. They're going to be better companies. I'm going to get it distributed. I'm going to give them back all these tax savings. So a lot of that was kind of in the early business case. But yeah, raising capital has been hard. And I think for certain Black women, I was talking to Pinky Cole. We were on a panel a couple weeks ago, and she had, a couple years ago raised $25 million. And, I think someone asked, like, would you do VC again? And she was like, it's just one of those things. Like, it is so hard because you're marrying people that they're somewhat investing in your vision, but they can change it, So what has been good about me not raising a lot of capital, specifically the capital that I need, is I've maintained a lot of ownership of my company. So I'm still the largest shareholder, largest owner of the company, even though I've had some investors come in. And so that's helped keep the vision there. What's been hard about it is it's been hard to scale it to where I feel like it should be. And I feel like any business owner should want their business at another level, right? You want to be able to take it. I think we should be everywhere. We're in 26 markets right now, 13 states. We should be in 50 states. We should be in every country. We should be everywhere. So, in order to do that, it takes so much more that I just haven't had the access to. And I've had a lot of people say, like, if you were a white man, you were this boy, oh man, you'd be a presidential. Someone said you would have got the presidential medal. And I was like, don't say that. But like, that's what they said. Like, they'd be throwing money at you because you'd be like a savior. And I'm trying to work and help people, that look like me. And it's been harder than I think it should have been.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, just even when you think about, the type of people that even, are VCs. I've kind of said this before, but especially in a city like Atlanta, like I kind of compare Atlanta to Silicon Valley, right? Like in Silicon Valley, you think about folks like the PayPal mafia, right? Like there are these groups of individuals that were at a company, they had a great liquidity moment. They were able to spin off. Everybody became millionaires overnight. I've talked about this before. I have a friend of mine whose wife worked at Airbnb in customer service, and she became a millionaire when they went public. And we don't have a lot of those down here, specifically in Atlanta. And I think,
So many more.
and we should have so many more. And I think that's one of those things that you don't really notice it at a high level, but when you really kind of take a step back, just Atlanta hasn't had that many companies. Like even with MailChimp, they sold a couple of years ago, right? But they were still privately.
A lot of millions.
No, they were privately owned. The Ben, he still owns the majority of that company. I think there was a small group of people that had some level of equity, but that was like $100 billion sale. And so you just think about, even if $100 million of that had went to 100 different employees, 50 different employees, now all of a sudden they could pool together and say, I'm put 10 grand in here, 20 grand in here. Now you'd have people from the culture, in the culture, that could actually contribute back to it. So I think, those are the things people don't always notice too, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. That's why I was talking to the ATL Tech, and I think we're trying to get into the top 5 in Atlanta. Of even that, because there's San Francisco, there's Boston, there's New York. I think Austin, Texas, is another one where you could kind of just raise a lot of money, and these kind of liquidity events are happening. Maybe it's Seattle. I think is another top one, because the same thing. The Microsofts, the Amazons, people have a lot of money and became millionaires overnight, and yeah, we should be able to help ourselves a bit more. I do think about that. A lot of times people will say, well, like, didn't you get any celebrities to invest in you? I'm like, no, like, these, like, it's not, because I think that's what people think of Atlanta, right? Like, oh, go and get Andre 3000 to give you 3000. I remember one time my dad was like, you need to call Tyler Perry. And I was like, Dad, I don't know Tyler Perry. But that's when you think of where the wealth could come from and the investment can come from, and you think of Atlanta, sadly, you're probably thinking of entertainment, because that's what we've been known so much for. So even for my own dad to be like, yeah, you need to call Tyler Perry. I'm like, Dad, that's just not the reality for a lot of us.
But he's not in the white pages there.
I don't know him. And then even if I did, I can't just be like, listen, this is what I need for my business. So it is on us. And I'm trying to build more businesses that get to 8 figures and 9 figures and support. I've been teaching lately at the Russell Center. So teaching like the next group of entrepreneurs, really loving them and just seeing them come up, and they have such great business ideas and the acumen is there. It's just like, what opportunities can we create? But at the end of the day, I don't care the idea. You've got to have money for it. That's just the reality of it. The idea could be amazing. Someone has to invest in you for it to go. You couldn't have started Butter without something. You got to have the website. You got to be developing the content. So you got to pay someone to shoot the content, to design it. There's money, and it takes money to make money.
It's money. Look, I remember very vividly building that out. That was one of the biggest things that we had was, that was one of the first times I'd had a chance to build a business with like some real investment behind it. And it's just so much easier to get things out the gate. It's so much easier to get the team that you need to kind of buy in early because, yeah, I always say at least in my world, great content takes a business model. And, people look at, content and all this stuff. They think it's all simple. I'm like, no, you got to have, videographers and, copywriters and designers.
Brand design, the colors that you're going to use, the fonts that you're going to use. People don't think that way. I think, even when I first thought about building an app for Goodr, this is 2016 when I first started thinking about this. At the beginning of the company, it was going to be called Super, because it was going to be kind of like an idea of like a soup kitchen on wheels was kind of the concept that I was thinking. But again, everyone was telling me I was crazy, but I thought it was going to be so cheap to build. Like, this is how I would say ignorant I was in a sense of what it would take to build this company because I was like, oh, I'm going to build an app thinking it would be almost like building a website. Oh, I had no idea that this is, you're going to spend millions of dollars building real efficient technology between paying for engineers, paying for UX, UI designers, hosting, servers. Like you're spending a lot of money and I would have never known that. So I think that's one of the things that people will think sometimes is like, oh, it's so easy. I could start this tomorrow.
Yeah, but it takes look, as a person that was on the other side, I'm telling you, people significantly underestimate. If you knew how many people came to me wanting to build the next Facebook with $500, and I'm like, I'm sorry, y'all. That's just
It's not gonna work. Yeah. It's just it's a tough situation. Yeah. I mean, I had someone who came to me pretty recently and said something similar, like, they've got $1 billion idea and they just needed $1,000 to get it going. I was like, what is $1,000 gonna get you? Because even if I give you the $1,000 for your $1 billion idea, I can promise you you need at least 1 million like to get it. I mean, there's just by the simple things.
to get the LLC filed and get you an attorney.
$1,000 is not gonna get you. It's not gonna get you there. And that's the tough part that sometimes people I don't think want to hear. Like, you have to invest. And so even if you want to start your own company, you want to start something, have some of your own money to put in towards it as well. I think that's the smart thing.
You mentioned you're doing work over at Rice and all the amazing stuff, Jay. Shout out to all them over there. Like, what advice would you have for other people that kind of want to build businesses at this intersection of, social impact and business in general?
One, you have to care really deeply about the problem that you're trying to solve, and you almost have to be an expert in it. And when I could talk about being an expert, I remember days going out feeding on the streets and then thinking like, oh my God, like I didn't put nothing to the side for myself. Like having been hungry, friends and family experiencing hunger, feeding people that I knew didn't know where their next meal was coming from. So be deeply connected to it because that connection and that purpose connection you're going to need to keep going because it's really hard as a social entrepreneur. You have to balance evenly purpose and profits, and that's a tough thing to do because a lot of times it's like, oh wow, I really want to feed more people, but my budget's only this, and I got to stick here so that everything else works out. So you have to be able to be connected to the cause, to be able to easily and meticulously have a fine balance between purpose and profit, but also develop a business plan that for every dollar you make, there's impact tied to it. And that's what's really been exciting for me with Goodr. And, I hope will continue to grow is as we make more money, we have more impact. And that's like an incredible feeling to be able to speak to it. And, consider other sources of funding. If I could do it all over again, I don't know if I would go with venture capital right out the gate. I think what attracted me to venture capital from a social impact standpoint is the model of VC is like fast, grow, invest, learn, fail fast. And I realized that because I had the money to the impact standpoint that I would make as I grew faster and was making more money, I'd make more impact. But had I looked at it differently and like maybe went after like large scale foundations that cared about hunger, maybe I could have had more patient capital and maybe it wasn't about doing it fast, but doing it really well, really right. So we've done a little bit of that, but I would get really good at whatever it is that you do and then go deep in it.
Absolutely. Well, look, I know you got a million and one things going on, so we're gonna wrap this up. But before we do, please let everybody know how can they support Gooder, how can they get in contact, how can they, get involved.
I love it. Well, on social media, we are Goodr Co, and that's GOODRCO. That's also our website, goodr.co. We are the Goodr Co on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. I'm Jasmine Crowe on everything. The biggest thing you guys could do to support us, if you know a school district we should be working at, places where there are people that are going hungry and they shouldn't be, reach out to us. Who are the companies we should be reaching out to? The mayors. I'm trying to find one mayor in this country that says nobody in my city is going to go hungry and come and work with Goodr. We have a plan. We can build solutions to end hunger in any city. If you work at a company that's wasting food, sign up with Goodr. Let us get this food to people in need. But your prayers and your support, whether that's on social likes and your prayers at night, whatever it may be, it all goes to help us. And so we're really grateful.
Jasmine, congratulations on all the amazing work you're doing in the community. It's so much needed. We wish you nothing but more success. And that's the pod.